Government contracting, yes. Let me tell you, I loved this conversation. And I knew that as we talk and we walk through the pace of just building the damn thing, that it was important. It was important for me to give you not just an insight, but a thought to another possibility. A lot of times we think that the only thing we can do is sell our products and services to the local market. Then some of us are a little bit afraid of selling it to the bigger part of the market. But let me tell you, one of the most overlooked areas of being able to sell to one of the gifts in the United States is government purchasing. I loved this conversation with Clifford. And what's absolutely true is that I knew that it was going to be good, but then Clifford just came through the day and kicked down the doors and he schooled us. Now, this audio is from one of our events, and as tempted as I was to not include it, I was like, man, you'd be missing out. As you think about building your empire and building the damn thing, I knew that this would change the game for you because these are the people who've actually done it. Now, many years ago, you've heard me talk about the fact that I got to 7 figures. Now, one of the tools that I leverage, even though government contracting was probably only 15 to 20% of my own business, I want you to be clear that I was certified. I had a federal certification, I had a state certification, and then I had a city certification in the city that we were in. And government contracting, what it dictates is that if you are minority or women-owned or a combination of both, you can apply for some form of certification and prove to the government that you are worthy of being purchased from. But here's the trick of the trade. The threshold is so easy and so low that anybody could start up with a bright idea, whether it's office supplies or food, or maybe it's gloves. Maybe it's not even something like that. Maybe it's an ice maker machine. Like, you'd be surprised. But the government, don't just think federal, the people who are sitting up in Washington. Think about all of the opportunities right around you. Think about the town that you're in, the township, the city. Think about the county itself and then the state. There's 3 different levels of people who are playing around you. And then let me tell you some of my favorite entities to sell to where I could move a lot of products at one time. Number 1, school boards. Number 2, higher education. And number 3, hospitals. Yes, say what? That's the essence of selling a lot of products and services at one time. And as crazy as this sounds, believe it or not, your product is being bought right now by people who have really deep pockets and a lot, I mean a lot of money to spend. I know you're going to enjoy this episode as much as I do. Please send me a text, send a pigeon my way. Let me know what you think after me and my Cliff have an amazing just walkthrough of what does it take to get into government contracting, how much money is being won, and how do you get your piece of the $127 billion that are being spent every single year. Our next guest is amazing. And what makes him so awesome is that he is the epitome of what it means to be so anti-resistant to telling your story and feeling like I don't really even think this is for me, to then walking into their story and becoming a brand new version of themselves. I'll also say this is another relentless mastermind client. And the reason why I brought them here is because they know all that my heart this year is inside of making sure that our community, any of our community who is in programs or places where they're just trying to get to that big next level, that they're a part of how we teach this year. Because Clifford well knows how to get to $500,000 and not bat an eye by himself with no one's help, without a fancy funnel. He knows how to get to $500,000 and still play golf and still enjoy a good bourbon and whiskey and still have moments where he can travel and do some things. The greatest part about it for me, and one of the things that I love about it, is that for the person who's like, oh, but I can't do it because there's not enough room. Clifford's in an industry where as a black man, it's even harder to get to that level of visibility and notoriety that he's in, but he's done it by himself. Well before he became one of our private clients, and he's been coaching with us for almost 2 years now, Clifford was a boss. Like, there's no other way for me to say this. There is no other way. And around here, we kind of know him as my Cliff. So the reason why I've asked him to come is because I knew how busy he was as well. He runs a huge world in the state of Florida, but I also understood that his level of nurturing relationships, building local relationships, leveraging a local conversation would not only help and serve, but it would put you in a different seat in terms of how do you see What do you see as terms of possibility of what's happening right outside your door? I'm also going to ask him a couple of questions around government contracting, because a lot of the people that he connects with and works with, they are minority owned businesses most of the time, who are the subsidiary recipient of people who are given not grant dollars but government dollars to fund big projects. There is a lot of money in government contracting. There is a lot of money in government contracting. There are some people who decide to open up their company and they're just a government contracting house. I am not, I believe that this avatar has to have a balance of both, because part of us need and want to have our hearts fulfilled inside of what we're doing, and we want to be connected to the work at hand. However, even though he doesn't teach government contracting in any way or how to get certified and those things, he is inside of the amount of money that's there. So without further ado, I'm going to say, dun, 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 please welcome the Clifford, Cliff, mother effing Hughley to the stage. Bum, 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 bum. I'm calling him Cliff in front of everybody. I'm sorry. Just can you put Cliff in the chat so he knows it's okay? Just put Cliff in the chat so he knows it's okay. I call him Cliff everywhere we go. That is his name on all of our folders. That is his name in my phone. It is Cliff. Now, I want to state some facts. Nobody else here can call him Cliff. It's a very established thing inside of our team. Everybody needs to refer to him respectfully as Clifford. That is my Cliff. Now, I want everyone, Clifford, I'm really grateful that you took time. I know how busy you are, and I'm going to do my best to get through my questions fast. But your knowledge is vast and wide, and you're a boss and crazy brilliant when it comes to two really neat things. And I wanted to walk through that level of expertise, because sometimes we look at the local market and we're thinking to ourselves, can I really leverage the local market to make a dollar? Can I build relationships right outside of my home or, in my city? And what should I do and where should I join? And what's so awesome is that Clifford has done it decade after decade. But more importantly, he's done it in markets where they may not be jumping up and down to see him. He has to be creative in his approach, but he's consistent in the outcome. And I knew that his level of knowledge around nurturing, building, developing relationships in his city, and then in general, now he's developing them around the country, in the US, I knew that it would lend some serious knowledge, just not how to even get to 500,000, but how do I just get to my next 50,000? How do I get to my next? So I'm going to ask Clifford some questions. I want you to take notes against his answers. And then I'm going to move from relationships, relationship building, because how do you relationship your way to $250,000, right? Like, that's the key question. And then I'm going to walk into government contracting and talk about the opportunity that's there. So Clifford, give me the reality check on this. Inside of my city, inside of everybody's city, there's business happening. And I've got to connect with that business or the business that's happening, but I don't know where to start. If I were going to pick one place to go and start making relationships, or even just to go out there and go figure out what's going on, what would I do and where would I go?
I think that the first place would probably be the local organizations. So you get involved with like this the city sometimes has a like a CRA, economic development, or you get involved with like the chamber of commerce, right? So there's a chamber of commerce in probably every city or every county.
CRA, hold on, let's write this down. So CRA
Right.
and economic development. That's what he said first. He didn't say anything else. This is really important. CRA, economic development. All right. And you said chamber, right?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. What's next? Keep going.
So those will give you a basis, but there are also different organizations. It depends on whatever your. I think if you kind of Google what your discipline or what your field is, there's local organizations that are within your area that meet, associations that meet, that you can pull off of. But I think to get a broad realm, uh, uh, those first three will give you the basis of or what's going on in the general area or within your community. And if you may have some type of a leadership groups, they also may be involved with different things that are going on in your community. So every community has something that the information is passing through. So I would think that within your discipline or within whatever you're trying to get into, there's an organization that's set up to branch off and to connect the dots.
Perfect.
Uh,
Okay, so let me stop there. Hold on one second. So, the CRA, isn't that it's called like community development or community, it's an association, right?
right, it's a community redevelopment.
Okay, perfect. So, Community Redevelopment Association. Let me tell you why these two are super important and why he made these first. Because they're government driven. That means they're always funded. They always have a budget. They're always putting on programs, and they're really good about pulling the local government, bigger employers, school boards, higher education into conversations, whether those people want to be there or not. Isn't that fair, Clifford, for me to say?
It is. I think a lot of those organizations are actually funded by the government, right? So
Right.
they get grant funding and different things, and so they're required, and most of their platform is based on helping small businesses.
Bingo. So they exist to help a small business. And depending on who and what you are, the small business right now, Clifford, do you agree with this? I just want to know. Small business is defined like $2 to $10 million. Did you know that?
That's correct.
Huh?
Yes.
So did you know that in the U.S., I don't know what they call people under 2 million, but small business in general is anywhere from small business in general is $2 to $10 million, which means, so here's why I'm highlighting this. That means that there are endless, like if they're gearing for that size of a company, when you get involved, if you're under let's call it $1 million, the resources and things that are there are literally there. There is a plethora of ways for your company to grow simply by getting connected, because to Clifford's point, they have to produce these events. They have to connect the dots. They need to have some pool for a small business in the city to go and hang out and connect to, plug in and benefit from, in order for them to be check marked that they're doing their job. And then also in order for some of these people to either get their bonuses, continue to stay, or whatever it might be. So, Clifford, you said CRA, Chamber and Associations. Right now, for whatever you believe in, there is an association for it somewhere. It may not be just in your city, it might be in your state. There's an association for knitters. There's an association for coaches. There's an association for plumbers. There's an association for chimneys. There's an association for everything. And if there's not one, you should start one. Every year, I'm like, I'm going to start an association. I haven't done it yet. I want everybody to know. But every year, I have these 2 or 3 things. I'm like, there's no association for that. I'm going to do it. Clifford, so after I go to these association groups and I meet people and connect, what's my next best step?
So I think the next big step is to figure out which way you want to go. If you want to do government contract, and if you want to base it, I mean everything is based on. I think everything is based on some type of relationship, right? So it's about starting that relationship with whoever, because what happens is that these branches kind of lead to different avenues based on wherever you want to go, right? So within that, I think everybody should look at getting some type of minority certification, whether is women or just minority or whatever that is, small business. There's a certification for you, and that will give you a different avenue, a different way of looking at the overall economy. Because right now it's the year of the small business, right? That means that there's billions of dollars that's out there that's focused on small business, whether and even more that's both focused on minority small business and women. We say this is the women the year of the woman, right? Because they're the government is strategically looking for doing business with women, right? They have special committees that set up just to do that. And so if you're not plugged in, if you're not tapping those resources, if you're not getting in front of the people that are helping to make those decisions, I think that's the next step. I think that in order to play the game, you have to get in the game, and getting those certifications will help you to get into a different realm of playing the game.
In order to play the game, you gotta get in the game. What, hold on, let me catch myself. Hold on, God damn. In order to play the damn game, you must be in it. And Clifford just told you and me that the way to get in the game is by getting certified. He said, I think every small business should be certified. He said, I think every small business and every woman should be certified. It's year of the small business and it's year of the woman, for sure. Now, there are so many different levels of certification. I want everyone to know. And even though we're not diving too far into that yet, I have been certified in all of the levels. There's federal, there is state, there's county, city, and then there's private certifications. I just told Clifford the other day that I'm gonna go back through and get certified in some areas in this company. And he is right. I can't tell you how many times I've sold products or services in the past simply because I was certified. And I'll tell you the one that had the least impact on me, because a lot of people hear them like, oh, I got certified. I got hub certified in my state. Hub certification, I'm not saying it doesn't work, but it's not, but there are certain levels of certification, Clifford, if I'm right, unless it's changed, that like federally, it's great to be certified because the government says we have to spend X amount of dollars with minorities and X amount of dollars with women. And there is some form of an auditing process that happens to ensure that certain dollars were spent whether we'd like it or not. But it's mandatory.
That's
Am I
correct.
right?
That's correct.
So like in the state of North Carolina, it was wink, wink mandatory. It was like a subjective. And there were ways, depending on the dollar amount that was being spent, that they could, I don't want to say circumvent the process, but they didn't have to award a minority the dollars. Am I right, Clifford? Am I close?
That's correct.
Yes, and even though I'm not putting Clifford on the record, I'm not having him saying anything about government contracting that's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm telling everybody my story and my experience. Because I held a state certification for about 4 or 5 years. I also held a federal certification for about 3 to 4 years. And I held many others. And I know how many RFPs that we responded to and how many things we did. And the truth of the matter is that I said to myself, in my state, I don't feel seen, but in my federal life, I felt seen. I also know that the rules change from, not rules, but there are certain states that really embrace that. There are certain states that really embrace it, and some states that just say on paper they do. And also, as a black woman, depending on the state that you're in, I'm talking from a black woman's seat. I can't really talk from no one else's. I want everyone to hear me in my opinion, and then I'm gonna ask Clifford some things. In my opinion, everybody should be certified on all of them. At some point, if you're gonna be in business for a couple years, just go get certified on them all. It's the same paperwork. Literally, it's all the same thing. You just submit it to that. Am I right, Clifford? It's like plus or minus the same thing they're looking for.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're not, it's not like it's a different, slight, bigger process or certified in what? You're certified that you are, so Clifford, let me ask Clifford. Let's have Clifford explain it. Clifford, what is certification? What are you certified in? The fact that you're black, the fact that you're Asian, the fact that you're Hispanic, right?
Correct. So just by you being doesn't make you uh, recognized in that space to be awarded any type of dollar. So that entity that's doing that certification is gonna recognize that you are who you say you are, and that you meet those qualifications or requirements to be certified. And so there's different certifications. So you don't. I mean, there's, like I said, women's certification. There's minority certification. There's an 8A certification. There's a DBE certification, right? There's an SBE certification, and so there's a county certification that most places that may be race or gender neutral. A lot of places that have some race or gender neutral certifications, which are small business, and then there are some race and gender that applied certifications that are focused on. So there's different certifications depending on what level that you're trying to play on, and so you just have to look into those certifications. You see, I, I'll be surprised at anybody that and I think sometimes everybody thinks that there's a stigma behind being certified, but the fact of the matter is that I always say that there's small business is big business, right? So what we fail to realize is that the bigger businesses know how to play the game, right? So even though we think it's a stigma behind getting certification, the big businesses figure it out that I need the small business to get me this money, so they figured out how to manipulate the system, and we haven't even been able to get into the system, right? But in the meantime, they're spending millions on how to manipulate the system.
Period. Can you just put that in the chat? Did you hear what he said? He said, I want you to know small business is big business. Small business is big business, and that's you. That's Clifford's philosophy and point of view wrapped up in one simple sentence. Small business is big business. This enters a brand new conversation with me, and the reason why I really get excited when I have the luxury of being with Clifford. And even though I coach him for sure and we work on his business, I learn from Clifford all the time, and I respect him for sure, because once you pass $500,000, you're definitely put yourself in a different space, and the space is this. It's your confidence that has stopped you from not participating in bigger business. Your products and services can be purchased by every Fortune 1000 company, every government entity on the planet in theory, but specifically in the US. Be clear that companies like Cisco are spending money on personal branding. Be clear that they are, don't think for a second that your product or service cannot be consumed by a bigger entity. What certification does, certification and relationship building in your local area, what it does is it allows you over time and or a vehicle to get right to the door of playing in the bigger game. I used to have a client who did personal styling, and she would go and we would create these workshops for a lot of Fortune 500 companies. And she would go in and literally spend time with the VPs and such in a workshop. And the company would pay for their women to go and learn how to better dress for work. Sounds crazy, but it's true. Small business is big business. That is the Cliff Hughley telling you in its purest form, and he is so right. It's important for you. So this is a great example of you never know who's listening or you never know who's watching. And it's so important for you to own your own value and own whatever it is that you're doing. Let me tell you why. Because, Clifford has been a client of ours, but the truth is that Clifford's confidence in what he knows, not in his ability to say it, just his confidence in the fact that small business is big business, has stopped me and forced me to go, yes, we need to go get certified. It's also put me in a position when anyone wants to talk, as I think about some of the big projects that I'm working on that won't materialize until 2023, 2024, and I'm looking for the expert to cover or to be next to me or to launch or to share, for sure, I'm like, it's Clifford Hughley. But it's not because he's my client or he'll still be my client then. It's because I'm always going to keep with me the experts. And whenever he's there, Clifford owns the conversation. Period. And he is clear that small business is big business. And if you listen to him, he was like, they're already playing the game. That is frustration, that is annoyance, that is angry. So we know what pisses him off. Then we can insinuate what problem or what area of problems he's solving in the world. Does everybody understand what I just said? If you can just put Clifford for the win in the chat. If he has already schooled you and you already went, ding, it doesn't really cost anything to get certified. Honestly, every application is probably, like the most expensive one is $220. But some of them, like government ones, they're free. Or they're like $20. Am I right, Clifford? None of
That's
them are
correct.
thousands. There's none of them that are thousands of dollars.
That's correct. I think so. Sometimes we get deterred by some of the paperwork,
Right.
but you know the paperwork is just part of it. But I think regardless of what you do, you're gonna have to do some type of paperwork. I think
Right.
that there's a deterrence to everything, right? And the initial deterrence is the paperwork. But what you figured out is once you get past that stage, that it opens up a whole other realm that you're not even planning yet. And so
Once you get over that, it opens up a whole nother area that you're not even playing in yet. Say that. Once you get through that, it's going to open up a whole nother area that you're not even playing in. You don't even know that it's over there. Listen, take me off the screen. Just take my ass off the screen and put Clifford up there. Let me just sit my ass back. I don't even need to be here. Let the man talk. Shit. You don't need me.
I think that you know the fact is that there's plenty of money, right? There's no shortage of money. Last year the government spent, I think it's around 147 billion dollars in small business alone. That's a in small business alone, right? So
What?
that's not including what the spend is, but just in small business alone, they spent 147 billion.
Sweet
Now,
Jesus.
out of that 147 billion, 27 billion was just women, right? Just women-owned businesses across the board, and that's
Wait,
just the
27 bill. Listen.
20.
Listen, ever heard that? Can you just let's hold on. That was a B, guys. There is no M. That was a B. $27 billion. And that's what Clifford said that in the middle of him training. I was like, oh, shit, how much we didn't get any of that this what the fuck are we? I had so many words. But then I thought to myself, of all the people who are out there saying, I don't know where to find customers and clients, I don't know where to take my services. I don't know. Can you imagine what 0.00001% of that would do to your bottom line next year? If you just got one sale, one, do the math on it. Here's what I want to point out why I stopped. You saw how Clifford gave you statistics and facts? He doesn't even have that conversation with his customers and clients. That's not what he does. But that's the expert who knows his expertise, knows exactly what problem he solves, understands the problem through and through, and gets annoyed when he talks about it. The government spent $27 billion with women last year. Did anyone just have a moment? That's a lot of questions to ask yourself. The government spent $27 billion and $147 in billion. But what he said is that that's not their total spend. That's just what they spent with small business. I don't want you to go past that. These are not simple facts, data, or statistics. This is like life-altering conversation. Having been certified before, let me tell you, I have sold to the VA, I have sold to the Department of Justice, I have sold to so many colleges, state and local. I've signed two, three, $400,000 contracts because of the fact that I was certified. And I'm telling you, what Clifford is saying to you is no joke. And what I understood back then was like 2% of what I understand today about small business. Back then, I only understood what the hell was happening in my little city, in my little 2-cent state. I don't want you to move past what Clifford's saying, because today has been all about the local resources that are right around you. And there is no age limit. There are no rules. If you can get yourself certified by filling out applications and proving to the government that you have something valuable to offer them, they go, okay, great, you're in, and they hand you a stamp. And that stamp provides you a vehicle to participate in the game. One of my greatest moments last year was going, oh, we are not in that game. Never connected myself to what we do and where we can participate in the government. I hold certifications in other companies that I own, but not this one. And I was like, wait a second. I don't want you to go past this, because what Clifford just said it's a gift from him to us, for everybody, about what you can do to change the trajectory of this year and the next 2-3 years that are in front of you. Clifford, let me ask you a question. What is the number one reason why people don't apply, or you see people back away from government contracting? What's the number one reason why they don't? We have about 3 minutes left, so I want everyone to make sure that this is not the moment to go get water or any of the above. What's the number one reason why they don't?
I think the number one reason is they don't understand the what the process. They don't, and they might not even understand what's on the other side of that. I think there's sometimes like I said, a stigma, and the sell on how that's being portrayed, right? So when I say small business is big business, these bigger companies are in it to get the money, right? So they realize that the government is passing this money to these small businesses. Well, sometimes it has to flow through some of their hands at the same time. So they understand how to shift some of that funding, and so I think it's more so of us being in the space and being and just taking advantage of the opportunities. I think a lot of times we don't take advantage of opportunities just because of the stigma, and you know we're prideful, right? We're prideful, and we don't want to be recognized as a small business. Well, there's plenty of money that's out there for a small business, and you know I run across small businesses all the time. And some of them even have a certification, but they don't want to be recognized as a small business. That's fine, but the truth of the matter is that the funding and the opportunities that's there for small businesses is more abundant now than it has ever been.
More abundant now than it has ever been, which is 100% why this conversation was important and a gift from me to you, and more importantly, from Clifford to all of us. Cliff, my sweet, sweet, amazing Cliff. Thank you so much. I am stupidly grateful. I am honored that I have the luxury of having a front row seat to all the dope things that you're doing. Cliff is one to follow. He's going to be speaking and teaching with me all year. And more importantly, he is going to be coaching and offering some support in the collective and inside of our programs as I heal and recover. He's brilliant. I am just so excited about what you all just heard. I want everyone to know that every industry in this room is covered under what he said. Every single one. There is no industry who cannot get certified. And the government buys all the same things that we buy. All of the same things. From cups to stickers to clothing, to decoration, to events, to lights, to cameras, to jewelry, to speakers and books, hair, everything. Cooking, plumbing, you name it. The government is an resource that is often left alone. And I have an initiative this year specifically because of Clifford's push behind me. He doesn't know this, to make sure that more of our people get certified. And I mean our DTDT people get certified, or they find a way to participate with someone else who is certified. That's some next level stuff. So the Cliff, we're gonna say bye Cliff. Hip hip hooray for my Cliff. My Cliff.